All right, so hello everyone. Thank you so much. And hi, VP Jackson. Nice to see you. So thank you so much for coming. I know this is an awkward time to come in the midst of all of the school madness. A lot of events are happening, a lot of meetings. So I just want to recognize and thank you all for coming and taking the time to chat about this. So my name is Gabriela Flores. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Vanguard newspaper. That's the campus newspaper here at Brooklyn College. And here I'm accompanied with my colleagues, Michaela Arlia. She is a managing editor at the Vanguard, and Bree, they are our layout editor at the newspaper. And they also work as the online content manager at WBCR, the radio station. And we also have Louis Fletcher right here from the Get Back. He hosts a show on WBCR and is currently the treasurer there. So we want to thank you again for coming, taking the time to chat. And this is an important time to discuss, especially since there are a lot of issues circulating, a lot of concerns, and we just want to make sure that we give students a space to discuss what they want to discuss and make sure that their needs are heard. So without further ado, this is going to start All Ears BC Media Town Hall. This marks our first collaboration with Vanguard, WBCR, and the students of the TREM department. So, yeah. So again, these are our student panelists. Our lovely photos here, if I do say so myself. And we have some guest admins. Some of them couldn't make it today, but it's all right. They will be missed. And we have VP Jackson, thank you. We have the Dean of Copeland School Business. The Director of Immigrant Student Success will be coming later today. And also Dean of the School of Natural and Behavioral Sciences. So thank you both, and the three of you, for coming, for taking the time. And so now, yeah, a little round of applause. Oh yes, of course. And thank you again for taking the time. And just to let students know, faculty meetings or faculty council is happening right after this. So tight times. But anyway. Oh yeah, so we'll speak fast. We'll get to the chase. But yeah, so we're gonna go into about us. And we also have, of course, my home away from home, Vanguard, the campus newspaper. We borrow our name, the Vanguard, from an outlet, a student outlet here at campus that was shut down in 1950. And we actually have some alums who are still alive from Vanguard, so it's interesting. Just, we're hoping to just still carry on student journalism here at Brooklyn College. So that's us. That's a little bit about us. And yeah, and now Michaela's going to be discussing the rules for the town hall before we get started. Bye.
All right, hello everyone. So just a quick reminder, rules for town hall will be basically speaking on 4 main categories of discussion, that being Brooklyn College and CUNY cost and budget, academic needs, campus infrastructure, and student life. So there will be a 5-minute summary related to each subtopic, and then students or faculty or whoever wishes will have the chance to voice questions, comments, and concern to either be addressed today or at a later date following feedback. Each student or faculty, whoever wishes to speak, is allowed 2 minutes per topic to voice comments, concerns, or questions, and then unanswered questions or concerns will be relayed to the designated administration and departments on campus. And we ask that you please be respectful when speaking. We're all here to share the space. So that being said, so we're going to start off with the Brooklyn College and CUNY costs and budget. So just to give a brief recap, the university has asked its 25 campuses early last month to cut its programming and budget expenses for the 2024 fiscal year, which starts July 1st, 2023 and ends June 30th, 2024. For colleges projected to end the 23 or 24 fiscal year in a negative position, the percentage of cuts is 60%. But in the latest executive budget, Governor Hochul is offering CUNY less funding. Hochul has also proposed raising the tuition of both university systems by 3%, with CUNY's tuition costs for full-time resident undergraduate approximately $3,465 for each fall and spring and semester. For full-time non-residents or out-of-state and international students, tuition is $620 per credit, and CUNY Chancellor and SUNY Chancellor has testified in a budget hearing on February 27th to support Hochul's proposal raise to tuition. So, that being said, if there's anyone who wishes to speak on any of these concerns or questions for further information, I'll open the floor to you. Yeah, Jessica, go ahead.
So from what I understand, they're cutting $9 million, but they're voting to raise tuition. So what are we paying tuition for? What are we paying that we're not getting?
Currently.
Yeah. Like, is there any information on that? Like, obviously, if they're cutting $9 million, it's going to impact faculty and students. So what is the justification to raise tuition if you're cutting things from us? I don't know if anyone here can answer that, but.
I think the justification is that there's an enrollment shortfall, and that triggers. I'm speaking a little bit out of context here because I'm not the fiscal person, right? But my understanding is that because of the decline of enrollments at Brooklyn College, specifically from our peaks, which is over 4,000 students, that has a net negative consequence on the actual revenue taken in by Brooklyn College. That revenue has to come from somewhere and cannot be sustained with current infrastructure unless there are cuts or increases. And I guess it sounds like it's a balance between the two. But again, I'm not the fiscal person. I'm trying to figure this all out too.
Definitely a learning experience for everyone.
I can add a little bit of color to what Dean Talia said. As any organization, you run an organization, you have two kind of costs of running the operation. One is fixed. The fixed cost is regardless what you do, you have to pay this much money, right? Like United States government, there's so-called entitlement. Whether you have tax revenue or not, those entitlement you have to pay. Now for colleges, there are fixed costs. The fixed cost, unfortunately, is the largest, most significant part of the total budget. So when the enrollment goes down, the revenue become lower, but the cost of running a university is still there. So how do you make up those differences? For example, the buildings has to be maintained, right? You cannot say, well, we have fewer students, so let's shut down the building. You cannot do that. And all the faculty, staff who have the contract, job, the faculty and staff has to be paid, right? You cannot just say, let's cut 20% of the faculty. You cannot do that by law, right? Mm-hmm. Therefore, those fixed costs is there, and they're the majority of the budget, probably over 80% of the budget. Then you have a revenue shortfall. So what do? Then you can do two things. One is further cut the cost, but you can only do so much because of fixed cost, or you can increase the revenue. Now, how do you increase the revenue? There are two primary channels. One is to increase enrollment. That actually is the primary goal of all of us, the administration, the faculty, the staff. We have been doing a lot of meetings. We have been putting a lot of ideas, and we're implementing a lot of initiatives to stop the declining and increase the revenue so that will make up the shortfall. The second is the potential of increased tuition, but that will be a long way to go. Right now, it's just a discussion. I don't know how long it will take actually to put it into place. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
Did you want to
Yeah,
add to that? Yeah, of course, of course.
But okay, so is there information on why there's low enrollment? Like, what is I don't under, is it because of COVID or what is it?
That's a good question, but there's a lot of data out there and research and studies that have shown that as a result of COVID, the first thing that happened is everybody went to college. So there was a big increase just because there was nothing else to do. But that was extremely temporary, and it lasted about a year, and then everything started just dropping completely out. Part of it was a lot of money that was thrown into the economy, so there was not as much of a need to go back. But one of the things, pursuing a career, so in certain areas that I think that's made a bit of a dent. The pandemic has not helped any of us, of course, has really changed the dynamics of how we're all thinking. A bit of a resettling, a recalibration, and how is this going to turn around? We will see how it's going to turn around. My sense is that it is turning around, and it hasn't dropped the same in all areas. There are some areas where it's dropped more than others. I believe the sciences and business are areas that are likely to grow in the future, only because they tend to drive the economy. So I think students will gravitate to those areas that really do require higher levels of training. I mean, maybe some of the other soft skills are the ones that are going to suffer a little bit more in terms of returning back to college. But we'll have to see.
Let me just add to Dean Talia's what said, and I agree with all his points. I just add two more. One is why the question is a good one. Why there are fewer students? One is if you look at the statistical data in the recent years, the overall high school graduates number has been declining across the country. Okay, so we have fewer high school graduates each year over the last several years. So that pie is smaller. Second, there's a tremendous drop and declining in international students over the last several years. During the pandemic, before pandemic, right before pandemic, used to be a lot of students from all over the world come to U.S., right? Mm-hmm. And that make up a significant portion of the college student population. Now that percentage is much smaller compared to, let's say, 3 or 4 years ago. And so that will take some time to recover. But the high school age students declining, that's going to be a long trend. So coupled with what Dean Talia said, that many of the companies are no longer requiring a college degree to work, right? I don't know how many of you saw the news yesterday at NBC, 6:30, national news. That companies are not requiring, more companies are not requiring college degree to work in their company. So that also become a trend. Plus, many of the companies going to, looking for students who maybe just have a associate degree and then working. So all those come together is causing this trend. Even though I personally believe it's really nearsighted for a company to say, you don't have to go to college and then come just work for us as a high school students. We'll train you, give you special, necessary skills, whatever our job needs. You don't need a college degree. I think extremely nearsighted. It's going to have a long-term damage to the entire population, to the working population, and to the economy. And the college, especially four-year degree education, is so still valuable. And the data over the last 50 years have demonstrated again and again, the workforce with a college degree, with a four-year degree, have a lifetime earnings more than several $1 million, right? More than those kids who did never go to college. So you cannot take this short-term situation and then suddenly say, I don't need to go to college anymore. I guess I'm praying what is that word? To the choir, right? that preaching to the choir. You guys already call it. But I just want to make sure that you understand you made the right decision. The 4-year degree, once you get it, no one can take it away from you. It's going to be with you for the rest of your career, rest of your life. And for some people who do not go to college thinking that they're going to have a great career, for majority of those people, they may have a good job in the next 2 to 3 years. But eventually, they're going to look at college and say, oh, if I don't have a degree, my career has a ceiling, okay? Very low ceiling in any organization. That degree, mid-career, at that time they have kids, they have family, they have people to take care of, and they have to come back. So that will be even more challenging.
I think we have a question in the back.
So I think that you raise a really good question. The big thing that really kind of impacted Brooklyn College in terms of our enrollment is transfer students. So pre-pandemic, Brooklyn College really was a transfer institution. The vast majority of our students were transferring from Kingsborough and BMCC. Enrollment at Kingsborough and BMCC has now declined. And so now we're feeling those effects. So if you look at our demographic now, we're now primarily first year in college students and transfers. We have a great decline in transfer students. So that's really impacted our enrollment. So what we've been doing now, actually throughout the year, is trying to find out how to improve our enrollment, but not even just to bring in new students, but how do we keep the students that we have here? So we're seeing a lot of effort that we're trying to put into towards retaining students. In terms of your question about the budget, one of the goals of the Financial Responsibility Advisory Committee is so that students won't feel the hit. So even though that we're cutting $9.3 million, we don't want to reduce services, so that students really shouldn't feel that one way or the other.
And that's a very good point as well. Even though, you know, in budget-wise, when you look at the numbers, we're asked to cut, let's see, $9 million. But in terms of the impact to students, to people here, I think it's extremely minuscule. Because we, Peter, me, and other deans and faculty, students is our top priority. Okay, among all the things we do, students is the top priority. How does that translate? That translates that we're doing everything possible to make sure that we offer all the necessary classes for our student to graduate and to progress towards your next level. So you should not find any tangible impact. You see, wow, suddenly I can't graduate or I have to delay. That will not happen, okay? You're gonna progress just like you do in any situation. And we're gonna offer the courses that's necessary for all of our students to progress to the next level and to graduate. And we are also doing even more to engage our employers so that they come to campus and they talk to you, they recruit you, they offer you internship opportunities to start with, and then eventually employment. So that's what I feel strongly about this, that you, as the students here, I can speak for business school, that we are, I think Peter is doing the same thing, and other deans are doing similar things. We are doing everything we could to make sure that we offer the full curriculum for our students so that you are not going to be impacted in terms of academic study and student services by this budget cut.
I think we have a few questions. I think we had a question in the back. Did you still want to ask, or? Okay, all right, great. So then we'll pass it to you.
So, I'm hearing a lot of talk about like how you guys are trying to make your best to like ensure that student quality of life isn't affected, but like currently in the state that we're in right now, pre-budget cuts, student quality of life is not necessarily where it should be at. So why should we trust you guys that with a $9 million budget cut plus tuition increases coming at some point, that it's not going to affect students?
That's a very good question. I think if you have specific areas that you felt that the service, either the service or student life or curriculum are not up to the par, and please let us know. We will definitely look into it. If courses are essential for students to graduate and not offer, I don't think that's ever the case. And we are here every day. We look at the curriculum. We talk to the department chairs who are scheduling the courses. We make sure everything that's needed for students to graduate is offered, right? Now, student services, I know Ron, our VP there, is doing tremendous work with his team trying to meet. Now, is there any specific case to look at, how do we, where do we save this money from our operations, right? But one big thing we already know, your report already said, that is the phrase of hiring, okay? And that's the major source of saving, phrase of hiring. That means we're not hiring anybody new. If somebody right now leave Brooklyn College, right, that position is very much likely not going to be filled. So that means other faculty and staff will have to share that particular responsibility. That will be the major source of saving. Other things, the committee is looking at it.
Great. I'm going to have to say we'll wrap this segment up, but if you do have more questions, we will either get to it at the end, or we can you can relay them to us and we will get them out to the proper people to answer. All right, and we're going to just transition now to our next segment of academic needs.
All right, so next we're gonna talk about academic needs, as Michaela literally just said. Okay. The days of only having in-person experiences at CUNY have come to an end. Hybrid instruction, meaning the implementation of online and in-person learning, has become more widespread across the university in the wake of distance learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The university invested $8 million in federal stimulus funds for its initiative, CUNY Online. Some degree programs are being offered completely online.
Offered, sometimes it's just a fall semester class, but currently it's because there's low enrollment or they don't have the staff to teach the class. So getting back to the cuts, are the cuts going to impact course offerings for the fall, for next year? It was kind of disappointing that classes that I needed, that I thought I should get, I'm not getting. So that definitely impacts student quality of life here. So is there any way that the courses that will retain enough courses so there's enough options to take, or is this just going to be something we're going to have to eat?
So the truth is that it's going to be a combination of both. You already heard from Dean Hugh that all courses that you need to graduate will be offered. Okay, I personally have been offering courses with break-even points that are well below what they should be because we have a need, and there's sequences. What you will not have is this option maybe that existed in the past where there's a smorgasbord of opportunities to take it at time A, B, or C. But there will be classes offered to accommodate your schedule. It's going to be a bit on the tight side, and we've had to become fiscally prudent about what we are offering, but we are offering everything that we absolutely must be offering that you need in order to graduate. That is not going to be an issue and will not affect your ability to graduate. And in fact, all the deans are doing exactly the same type of an approach in terms of the required courses. But I can tell you that I've cut over 100 sections out of the School of Natural and Behavioral Sciences since our peak, well over 100 sections. We were offering 900 sections, okay, by far the most, because we are the largest school. We have the most students, the most faculty, the most enrollment. And there was a question of online that sort of, or at least going to the online discussion. There's clearly been a change to online. I mean, before the pandemic, most of us really weren't in this mode of instruction at all, didn't know much about it or weren't involved much with it. In the sciences, by the way, this is still the case. 90% of the science courses are in person, but we do have about 10% online. I don't think they're ever going to be more than 10% because you need in science to be in person. You need in the arts to be in person to do your projects, your lab work, your artwork, your creative work. It's very difficult to do those online. Also, employers are not going to hire you if you're doing a labster to learn chemistry skills. They're just not. So you're wasting your time fighting for online courses that are not going to lead to a success in your future. So, and in fact, our students know this. Our students are not demanding online. So you got to watch which constituency is asking for what around here. And what are they asking online for? Whether it's convenient for transportation purposes, of course it is. But what are you really learning and how much is it going to benefit for you? In some cases, it actually does. There are some asynchronous, even in the sciences courses, that work well for some of the clinical experiences that we have, as well as in psychology. There's several courses that work well online and asynchronously, particularly in the graduate programs. But, you know, in saying that, it's not bad to have online where it's necessary and it could be effective. So, again, I'm muting my comments a little bit towards what is going on in the school.
Let me just add a little bit on the online thing. And you know, during the pandemic, because there's no way but online, right? So we all went to 100% online. And as a result, the state education department and also the accreditation organization for the colleges who oversees the quality of education, right? Their job is to ensure the colleges are doing the right thing to deliver high quality education. And they gave colleges exemption. Says, okay, now it's pandemic, you have exemption to offer online classes to your students, even though your program is registered as in-person, okay? And that exemption expired by December 2021, okay? December 2021. Exemption is no longer there. So after that, that means starting 2022, colleges and universities should start gradually moving toward your normal operation. Now, we have a lot of students who during the pandemic have got used to online. As Dean Talia said, online may be great to specific courses, specific pedagogy, but not necessarily great for all courses and all pedagogy, right? So there should be a healthy decision and mix in terms of what is the most appropriate courses that we could offer online. And the rest courses need to be on campus, especially for undergraduate curriculum. You know, it's just not the right pedagogy and learning experience. One in accounting, one in business administration is going to be offered. That's with the state approval, okay, offered in this fall. But other programs, we're continuing offering predominantly in-person classes with some online courses that we believe is the right mix to offer to our students. So I strongly encourage you to think about it. You know, are you really getting the education you're supposed to get? If you are always thinking maybe I should take more online classes, especially if you're a undergraduate student.
Yeah, of course.
So I just want to go a bit on your list. It says hiring of new faculty, and there was a concern about the hiring freeze. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands what that really means. Yes, indeed, there is a freeze of anybody who leaves will not be replaced until this freeze is over. Promotions are all on stop. Nothing is moving. However, there are a number of faculty searches. The vast majority are still ongoing, and quite vibrant because they were approved on a different budget. You got to understand that when we talk about budget, it's not just one pile of money. There's different bank accounts, with different restrictions about what these monies can be used for. So there are many lines right now being recruited at Brooklyn College for new faculty. I've personally hired 10 new faculty in the last year who have come to Brooklyn College or have accepted an offer as of today. I also have another 13 lines that I'm trying to fill, which are still active. I've lost 2 of my lines, so it's not all the lines that have disappeared. These are lines that were under a different pot of money funded. So our school is bringing in 23 new faculty in 2 years in the midst of a hiring freeze. That's the biggest infusion of faculty we've had in over a decade here. Also, you're hearing about a $9 million cut. What you're not hearing about today is $211 million that we got this year to renovate science facilities at Brooklyn College from the state of New York. I'd like to hear people say something about that for a change, okay? $211 million, okay? That is a significant infusion of funds. This campus was promised 22 years ago a new science building that was never built. And after 22 years, the president of Brooklyn College has secured this amount of money now for renovation, the first phase of a 3-year renovation of the science facilities, the first phase of a 3-phase, 11-year renovation of the science facility, where the first phase is 5 years, funded by this $211 million, okay? These are significant resources, people, that any institution in the country would be absolutely proud of accomplishing, okay? And we have it here at Brooklyn College right now in the midst of coming out of a pandemic and in a hiring freeze of CUNY. I have to say we should tip our hats off to our ability at Brooklyn College to get out of this rut and to really lead what CUNY is going to be like in the future.
There's a question in the back.
Hi, I'm a student from the Natural and Behavioral Sciences, and I keep hearing the emphasis on the need for the classes they need to graduate. However, I think that's not sufficient enough. For example, comparing myself to other CUNY students, I was interested in some electives in the psychology or neuroscience that, let's say, Hunter College have specific clinical psychology courses where I couldn't e-permit because due to schedule conflicts. That I wish that we have more variety of elective or courses here at Brooklyn College offered, which unfortunately is not. So what these should be considered under the effort of increasing enrollment and attracting students, because no one is interested in just getting the needed classes they can to graduate in this era. You need to be unique, and it will be great if your school offered them.
That's an excellent point, and the school is doing that and offering, and we are developing new curriculum. In Natural and Behavioral Sciences alone, and we're actually a bit behind some of the other schools, we are involved in 10 new degree programs as we speak, which are going to have new degrees, not just courses. So, science and the world around us changes, and we need to change with it. There are some core disciplines that remain the same, and so there are certain departments that will have certain core teaching functions, but there's a lot of overlap, and there's a lot of communication that we need to understand, especially when we leave college and we get a job and we work with other people. We need to communicate, and everybody has different skill sets, but you need to have some common ground. We need to have an understanding. So a lot of interdisciplinary types of degrees continuously going on. When a course is offered and a professor is looking at a syllabus, they review every year what changes need to be made there. And they're actually assessed by their department chairs and their deans for their ability to revise curriculum, update it, and develop new curriculum and new courses. So I know it seems like there's not enough offered, and it could be frustrating at times. And we don't offer everything. Clearly, we don't offer everything under the sun. You're very fortunate, actually, being part of CUNY, that you have the e-permit system, and you can do what you can do, and that is take courses at other colleges that we may not have here. We don't have a neuroscience major. We have a minor here. We are actually developing a major, since you brought it up, as we speak. We hope to have it launched within the next 2 years, and we're trying to recruit faculty in that area as well. So we're doing what we can under the circumstances that we're facing right now, and that's my response to your question.
I agree. I'm actually also a neuroscience minor, which I was part of like the survey and proposal for a neuroscience major here at Brooklyn College. So I know about like it's in the work. I also appreciate that I see the efforts that are towards the research in Brooklyn College. But as I said again, yes, I'm very unfortunate for the e-permit options we have. But if it was no need for me to travel, like there's a lot of limitation, and it will be a point that with my peers that we discuss will bring more students in, because then they don't have to go to other places to take it. But thank you for letting me know for all the nuance.
Don't disagree with you. If I can add one more thing as well. One of the things that we're trying to upgrade, one of the things that we're trying to upgrade also, I talked about facilities, which is buildings, right? Which is the walls, electricity, plumbing, air conditioning, all the things that we take for granted that we actually don't have because our buildings are so old here. We also have equipment in our science labs, instructional equipment in our research labs, and research, and basically research grade equipment in our professors' labs as they're doing cutting edge research, and our students are doing it with them. Well, our equipment totals right now, we've done an inventory this year, it's about $7.2 million of equipment that is quite obsolete and needs to be updated. So where's that money going to come from? Okay, we need to generate those funds, and that's one of the things that we are doing in the school right now. We're at least trying, identifying potential sources to go. Just last week, I submitted proposals to Senator Schumer and Gillibrand for about $3 million worth of equipment as a congressional earmark. We're going to see whether we get that and then pursue actions after that. But as you can see, when you start peeling back the onion, there's a lot of layers here that need attention, and focusing on just one aspect of it is not going to get us out of this mess and is not going to allow us to move forward. We really have to have a total understanding of the entire onion and its layers and really address every single one of them as we go forward. So we're really, we understand that, and we are ready to respond to these very big challenges that we are all facing.
Hi. So I have a couple things that I want to say. First, online classes are wonderful for anyone that needs them, and I don't think that you should shame anyone for wanting more of them, because I think that after the pandemic, a lot of us needed to work. We needed a way to survive in this city, and I think online classes are wonderful for anyone that needs them. Like, I do understand that like in-person classes do allow for us to learn better, especially working with peers in person. And I have really enjoyed taking these online classes and in-person classes. Another thing I want to say, that it's wonderful that the science department is getting $211 million, right?
Well, the college is getting it to renovate the building.
Right. And this is just going to the science department?
It's not a department, it's a school.
Right, so just the science school.
It's 1/3 of the campus.
Okay. Yeah, 1/3 when we have problems all over the school. I think that that's
I'm not kidding. The last science infusion here was in the 70s. So the place is literally falling apart and is not sustainable to keep our degrees accredited. Some of our degrees have accreditation issues. And 42% of all of the courses taught at Brooklyn College are taught out of the science school. So it does affect a lot of the students in this school. So I mean, and your earlier comment about online education, it's not to shame anyone. It was thank God we had online, and we were able to survive, and we were able to switch relatively quickly during the pandemic and actually keep the lights on for students, for faculty, for most people. Unfortunately, we have suffered across the board in terms of the quality of the product that we can provide the students and what you've actually been able to learn and retain and how that translates to your subsequent career paths. We're trying to address that. Okay, so no, there's no shame in online, and and as I mentioned, in some cases, even in the sciences, it's very useful and valuable, and in other courses, it's even more valuable. I know in business, there's quite a bit of online activity, and particularly in the graduate programs in general. In terms of the buildings that you're talking about here, the total damage has been assessed to Brooklyn College from what remains. It's $1 billion of deferred capital. The science deferred portion of that is 760 billion, excuse me, I'm not saying this right. It's what am I doing wrong? It's $1 billion of deferred maintenance. I'm getting my zeros mixed up. And it's 760 $1 million of deferred maintenance for the sciences, of which we're getting the first third that was promised 22 years ago. So again, I'm not going to make an apology for that. We're doing the best we can to get the resources this whole campus needs so as a campus it flourishes. So it shouldn't be looked at, oh, the sciences are getting this, or the business school is getting that, or the humanities school or the arts school. We are getting that collectively. The deans talk about our common, our strategic plans for our schools, what we have in common, how we can move the campus as a whole. Okay, we're not as bound by these boundaries, but we use these boundaries in order to function and to get the types of resources and make the types of asks that we can make as deans in order to bring resources back to the school.
Okay, we're gonna take these two questions, but please make them as short as possible as we're running out of time. We're gonna go to the back left first, actually, because they haven't spoke yet.
Sure.
But you'll be next.
Okay, my name is Lou. I'm the president for the graduate students. I wanted to emphasize that one aspect of the work that the deans and the college president have to do is fundraising, and that fundraising is for us. And so, one of my questions would be, what is that like? How does that help fill the holes that we desperately need to see filled? This is important. Where's this money coming from? Because as you know, the state legislature, the city, outside of that, I think we just have to find it, right? And I know that the deans, they work hard. I know our administration works hard. And from our perspective, we're still struggling, right? And look, when 90% of students are on financial aid, that also means 90% of them have a lot of other issues. And so we know that we're also working with students that really need these resources, okay? And so honestly, it's all hands on deck. We all need to fight. We all need to fight for the funding for this school. And if we all don't put our hands in and say, go team Brooklyn College, it's just going to be more difficult, all right? We have students that just don't even have the resources to get themselves to school, right? So, the thing is, we're all hurting. And so, I'm kind of trying to balance here because I work with the administration and the faculty. Actually, at 3 o'clock is the faculty council meeting, right? So 3:30? All right, good. So I have some more time, great. And, this is a new thing where we now have a seat at the table. We have a voice now at faculty council, which is, I think, long overdue, but not in a bad way. It's like, hey, let's do this. Okay, and boom, here to come by, or we have to jump through hoops, especially from a customer service type level. It's so tough to get things sometimes. So I think, I guess what I just want to say is I think that everybody is trying to do what they can, and I do appreciate the work of the deans, and I appreciate also the fact that students are fighting. We all need to step it up some more. I'll pass it on. Thank you.
We appreciate the work of the students too, by the way.
Okay, so a couple semesters ago, I had a class in the basement of Whitehead, and there was like a leak from the semesters prior, right? That was leaking among electrical lighting grids, right? It's more about just beautifying or saying that the buildings don't look good on the outside. We need to also beautify it on the inside as well too, right? We have to also ensure that, you know, at least some, yes, there's a $211 million renovation for the science school, but also other departments, you know, should also be looked at as well too in that regard.
In the past, right? The School of Visual, Media, and Performing Arts has had over a decade of new buildings and fundraising initiatives that have happened. If you just walk on the other, look at the library. We have one of the most modern libraries of all the CUNYs. What can I tell you?
All right, awesome. If there's any other questions, which there are, I'm sorry, we'll have to take it to the end because we are running out of time. Yep, next up is Gabby.
Oh, thank you. I'm flattered. So it's me again, and we're going to be discussing now. If you can move to the next slide, campus infrastructure and resources. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be delving into further, right? All right. So, noticeably, a handful of campus resources have moved more of their resources to online, including financial aid and the International Student Services Office. Currently, the campus is undergoing a structural deficit. The college is in need of additional operational support to help address the structural deficit, which is primarily due to two things: decreases in enrollment and related tuition revenue, and historic unfunded mandatory cost increases. And this is according to BC President Anderson, who wrote this in a statement to the Vanguard that it's for an article that will release tomorrow. Shameless plug. So for Brooklyn College specifically, administrators are focused on funding for the renovation of Roosevelt Hall and Ingersoll Hall to deliver expanded, modernized teaching and research laboratories, classrooms, academic offices, and space for student study. As of now, administrators and student leaders, as the dean pointed out, undergraduate student government and graduate student government and other student leaders are doing several lobbying efforts to ask elected officials to invest more in CUNY. The governor's recent executive budget included $40 million in recurring general operating support that was allocated last year, but characterized as a one-time infusion. The recent spending plan also dedicates $484 million in capital funding to four-year schools and $120 million in capital funding for our community colleges. So that's a little debrief of campus infrastructure and resources. So I'm going to open the floor. Any thoughts? Yes, thank you.
So my first semester at Brooklyn College was spring of 22. I was a transfer student, and walking on campus, beautiful outside. Walking inside, I was absolutely appalled. From each building, other than like the newest one, the performance building, I was appalled. Paint peeling. Some of the buildings I was afraid to even drink out of the water fountains. Tissue not being in bathrooms, menstrual items not being in bathrooms, leaking, garbage not being taken out, things not being replaced, even in the radio station, carpet not being replaced even though we put in orders months ago, equipment not being received even though we put in orders months ago. We had a pile of equipment sitting in the radio station that was supposed to be picked up. That equipment sat in the station for 2 months before somebody finally got it, and it took us putting it in the hallway where it could have gotten taken. We had to put a sign up and trust that nobody would touch it for it to get taken out. So if we're talking infrastructure, this school is severely lacking. Even as far as the asbestos sign I saw going down into the cafeteria, it makes you wonder, what are you paying for and why are you paying? So I'm just, what is the school doing to address that ASAP? Because some of it is also a safety hazard too.
And would any administrator like to chime in? Okay, VP Jackson.
All right. So I'm not the senior VP for business and finance. He probably can answer this better. But I think you kind of hit it earlier. Brooklyn College had problems before the pandemic. And Dean Tolley has talked about the deferred maintenance. We already had deferred maintenance before the pandemic. And at that time, we were going through a process of problems that are happening right now. So unfortunately, the pandemic has kind of hurt us in a way that a lot of that deferred maintenance that we were trying to get through pre-pandemic that we never got to. And now you have that added on new issues. So we kind of have to figure out what do we fix just to kind of get by. To kind of defend Dean Tolley a little bit in terms of the funding for his school, just so you kind of understand how funding works, right? So when you get a donor that says, I'm going to give you $211 million just to fix this building, you take that $211 million and you fix that building, right? So we're not going to say, oh, we need to fix the School of Visual, Media, and Performing Arts, so we're not going to take your $211 million. However, and just so you know, that's how we got that building. There was a donor that contributed money to build that particular budget, that building. However, how that does help Brooklyn College is that we have this one pot of money. If we now have this $211 million to focus in on his school, we don't have to pull from that master pot. So we can allocate other funds towards fixing the other schools.
Thank you. And Lou?
Did we discuss who controls the CUNY Board of Trustees?
No.
No, okay. 10 people are appointed by the governor, 5 by the mayor. The students choose 1. The faculty have a seat. I don't think they have a vote. So that's 16. Does that sound correct?
I believe so.
All right. So they are given money from the state and the city. And then the CUNY board divides that up, and then the college presidents have to decide where we're going to put the money. So that's it. So if we're given X amount of money and it's not enough to fix everything, it's really just putting a Band-Aid on a lot of things and hoping that we're going to get larger amounts of money later to fix the really big problems. You know, deferred maintenance is such a euphemism for the problems that we have. Again, so who gives us money? It's the state and the city. It's all those politicians. And they are in our communities. We vote for them. And when you're 18 or older and you're a citizen, you get to vote. So that's something that we also have to keep in mind. As CUNY students, are we voting for the right people that are going to keep funding CUNY? Are we going to hold them accountable? Are we going to go and say, hey, what are you doing in city council? What are you doing in Albany? All right, because we are supposed to be investing in our future. So help us out here. All right, now on our end, are there things that we can do on campus? I'm sure there are. There's something that I would like to do with the undergrads, and that's to do some sort of retention task force. What does that mean? Well, if you have a problem as a student, you let us know, USG or GSO, and we try to tackle it one problem at a time. All right, and this way we can keep track because it's about accountability. With respect to administration and faculty, sometimes those complaints disappear or they don't get addressed. And that's something that USG and GSO have to say, hey, what's going on, right? We don't want to lose these students. What's wrong with their visa? What's wrong with this class? Why didn't they get the class that they needed to graduate? All right, could they take an alternative class? So who's following up with taking care of those problems? So it's really, where can we do what we can with the power that we have? USG and GSO, all right, we're elected by the students. We do what we can for ourselves. We're supposed to be advocates for one another. All right, faculty have their focus, administration, all right, but again, I just want to make sure that I emphasize a couple of things. By the way, health clinic, anyone know where the funding comes from that? The student activity fee. So if enrollment goes up, they get more money. If the enrollment goes down, they get less money. The last time we increased the health clinic budget was when we, as students, increased our activity fee from $10 to $20, and that was 2011. Okay, we did that so that we could keep our health clinic open instead of having it cut back to 2 days a week from 4. Eileen Tenenbaum and all that staff, they do amazing work for us, the students. But their budget mainly comes from us, we, the students, through the student activity fee. So it's also important to know which money comes from where, what can student affairs do for us, what does USG and GSO have to pay for, how do we make this work? right? If we lose college assistants, should USG and GSO step up to try to hire some people ourselves, right? How are we going to do this? And that requires having communication and conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I have to leave, but I'd like to give you a few parting words. Well, I am, like I said many times, I'm inspired by Brooklyn College students every day. And I believe you guys are amazing. We have amazing population of Brooklyn College students. And that's why, and we are working so hard to make sure to help you to succeed. On the other hand, we're also getting wonderful employers to come to our campus to recruit, okay? We have, the biggest companies in New York City coming to recruit, and we're continuing connecting with other companies who are not recruiting from us and telling them they should come to see our students. And we do so many things on campus. We love you to be there, okay? You need to take those opportunities and to come to meet those employers and to participate in the networking and to get yourself known. And therefore, you're gonna have opportunities and offers and for internships for doing things, right? We are in a very challenging situation. This is not happened just yesterday. This is accumulation of many years. Therefore, many of the things what you have raised are real. My office is in Whitehead Hall. So what you said is true. When you walk into the Whitehead Hall, you said, wow, is this really up to a higher education institution? And as we said, our high quality and everything. But we have to work with what we got, right? We work together and we will get things done one thing at a time, one day at a time. And eventually, we hope we can get, if not every one of our students, but most of our students graduate, get a great career in a company, in a job you like, right? So we need to work together. So final words. If you have challenges, you have issues, you have difficulties, and if you're not getting answers from either faculty or something, no, as deans, we cannot solve all the problem. But one thing we can solve, help you, okay, is on academic-related issues, on courses, on faculty, right? On scheduling and stuff like walk into my office. I believe Dean Tolias is going to say the same thing. You can walk to my office, walk to his office, or other deans, or you can just send an email, right? Our emails are on the website. Just say, hey, Dean, I have this particular issue. I have talked to this faculty or this department chair, did not get answer, right? I do this every day for students. Student come to me said, I did not get a response. I already sent 2 emails in the last 1 week. Nobody responded to me. I said, sure. I will make sure this person respond to you or somebody will respond to you, right? We'll help you. Can we get everybody's problem resolved 100% satisfaction? Cannot guarantee that because there are other limitations, but we'll make sure we'll work with you to find the best solution for your issues, right? And that's the minimum we can do. And other things, it may take a little bit of time, but anything that's related to your academic study, to your graduation, to your career, right? Let us know, and we will do our best to help you and work with you. And all us together, we can survive and thrive in this challenging environment. The buildings may not get fixed next year, but things must be getting better for you next year, right? Or next semester, or next day, right? Sometimes I need problems to be solved next day. Yes, come to us and we'll do it.
All right.
Okay, thank you. I have
Thank
to
you
go
so
to
much.
faculty council meeting
Yeah.
right now.
I did want to say too, yeah. Thank you so much to the faculty and administrators here. And before I know that you all have to go to a faculty meeting. So if anyone wants to share any departing words, any final words, the space is yours. Oh, okay. Well, let's go to students then. Students, any input about infrastructure that you want to mention? Jessica.
It's not really like a question, but it's just to point out more about Whitehead, especially. So the water fountains. So on the 4th floor of Whitehead, there's a water fountain that literally dispenses blue particles. So you cannot drink from that water fountain. So I don't drink from any of these water fountains because I'm trying not to die. So I feel like that And now there's a huge crack on this third floor, right next to the radio station. There's a huge crack in the wall that wasn't there last week, but it got there this week. Big ass crack in the wall. So we're just concerned that, like she said, are we like actually in a safe environment? So I think, I don't know if facilities are here or if this can be sent to facilities, or because Governor Hochul did allocate money for infrastructure. So my thing is, when are they going to fix it? If they got the money, if it's coming, when is that going to happen?
And
Part of the issue kind of goes back to funding. Everything is going to go back to funding, right? So as you may or may not know, CUNY is a very unionized environment, right? These are all things that I'm learning because of the pandemic. To change that water fountain, you have to have a plumber. That plumber can only do certain jobs. Right now, we have one plumber for the entire college. So part of, and I only know this because I sit on the vacancy review board, and we just approved 2 new plumbers to come on. So hopefully soon we'll have 3 plumbers on campus that can deal with some of these issues. Similarly, because we're actually looking to replace all of the water fountains into water coolers to be more sustainable. That's the only reason why I know this, because we're looking to do that in this building. And so some of it is a people issue because of the way that CUNY works with the unionized employees, that only certain people can do certain jobs. And if that person, if that position is not filled, then it kind of has to wait until we have that person. Or in this case, when you have only one, has to then kind of get into this schedule to kind of get to that issue. That's not good response for you. It is something that we're looking at, but it also kind of impacted because of the budget. We don't necessarily have the staffing to do a lot of these tasks. And that's another thing that we're looking at, is we need to figure out how to get these critical staff people hired, even with a budget crisis.
Like, I keep hearing a lot about like budget and like bureaucracy and red tape, and I understand all of that. I worked for the government for 6 years, been there, done that. But like, I worked on a warship. We were chronically understaffed, chronically underpaid, chronically under budget, and I had an easier time getting like parts for a missile than I do getting furniture for like a room. So at some point, it's like somebody along the lines isn't doing their job. Like, I could order a part for a missile on my ship and have that in 3 days, and if we're on deployment, have that in a week. But we ordered furniture last semester, and we still haven't got it. So along the line, somebody is not being held accountable, and someone is not doing their job. It can't just be a budget. It feels like someone's not doing their job.
I do want to point it to, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Noam. I'm the assistant treasurer on the undergraduate student government. And like, on one hand, you're absolutely correct. On the other hand, it does move back to budget because there's so much that happens, and it's through all CUNYs, and there's the central office, and then there's a limit on who we can hire there also, right? And each step of the way, through each office it has to move through, and this extremely annoying red tape thing, they're all overworked and or understaffed. And it's something that we've been seeing more and more of, and we've been working towards hoping to fix. But ultimately, and it sounds like a cop-out answer, it comes down to the fact that money is just not there, and even if it's in one place, it means it's not in another place, but all the places need the money. For instance, if you have a club event and you want to get an item, right? You need to get the funding from, the student activity fee pot through USG. Then you need to spend that money, and that's through central depository. If it's a certain amount, it may need to go towards bidding, right? And then that's a separate department. Or it may need to go to a central purchasing office or a CUNY office or a separate thing. And these are just all really intense, annoying rules that are all in place that make it really difficult to get things done, is what it comes down to. And we try to find ways around it wherever we can. I know In terms of water fountain, we're currently working on putting some new ones in here in this building, and hopefully expanding that as we can. In terms of repairs, I know the fight for repairs from Roosevelt have been going on for years and years, right? Like, it was built at the end of, like, during the Great Depression, and like it's been redone since, but like the fight for repairs is something that's been going on for longer than I've known the words Brooklyn College.
Yeah.
Right. And things like this, like, they're problems that we work to solve, and then the people after us work to solve, and the people before us tried to work to solve. And everyone did their part, but ultimately these things are so annoying and complicated that it takes this amount of time. For instance, when we spoke earlier about the new funding for repair for the School of Sciences and the building, right? Even if that money came in this year, it means by the time it's done, it's 11 years later, which is annoying because it means like we feel like we don't get to see any of it, which sucks, right? Obviously, you know, I've taken classes in Roosevelt Hall. You know, I walk in, I see the building, I go, I don't want to spend a minute in here. But every step we move towards it, some of them are extremely invisible and so small, but they all do work towards something. It just oftentimes on a scope so large that like I won't see the benefits for any of it. And if my kids go to Brooklyn College, they may not.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. Yeah, we do.
So just real
sorry.
quick, you are totally correct. Literally today, we had a meeting with procurement to figure out how we can speed up those processes. The issue is that what we found was that there's 4 different offices to kind of get something purchased. The offices weren't talking to each other. So people were doing their parts, but they didn't understand how their part impacted somebody else's part. So when we had that meeting this morning, that came out, we're like, okay, we need to work together to solve this for the benefit of the students. So hopefully, come fall, there'll be a streamlined process for students and a much more faster and efficient way of purchasing things.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else who hasn't commented? We only have about 1 minute left for this section. So anyone? We can close it. All right, so thank you. Our next topic is Student Life by Lewis.
All right. Hello, everybody. So it's ironic enough that so I'm going to introduce this person who's going to talk about student life while he just went on about a 2-minute thing. So his name is Noam Abrahams, and he is a USG representative. And Noam, get up here. Round of applause. Round of applause for Noam, please. There you go.
Hey, long time. So first I want to thank the Vanguard and WBCR and the Television Society Club. I forget what the official title is. No? And TREM, right. And TREM for hosting this. So student life is really the backbone of any college campus. It took a really big hit during COVID. This year is our first year back. We're going back into full swing. Right now there are, I think, around 150 registered student clubs here on campus, and they're all trying their best. If you know someone who's on a club board, you know, make sure they're doing okay, because it's a lot of work. At undergrad student government, where I serve as a student senator and an assistant treasurer, we're working for all the events you see, including we had the food trucks out. We've got an upcoming Rage Against the Midterms coming, I think, in 2 weeks, and also in helping out with other big events like the Holy Celebration that was just on the quad today. But when it comes down to it, students are the backbone of student life on campus. Right now's undergrad student government election season. Today is actually the last day to declare candidacy. And then we've got a couple more days of collecting signatures to be on the ballot. And then starting Monday, March 20th, voting season starts. So you'll be able to vote for come March 20th. Cast your vote. Make sure people you know are casting their votes, because it's really important to student life that everyone's represented and that students are active in everything. We work with administration all the time, be it Brooklyn College or CUNY. We've sent students up to Albany for the caucuses to talk about advocating against budget cuts, advocating against the tuition hikes. It's something we work on all the time. So I think it's best to open the floor to people if they have any question about student life or anything about it.
This is less a question that needs a 3-minute long discussion afterwards, because I know no faculty are in here, I'm pretty sure, so literally it doesn't matter. This is relating to campus culture and basically the campus climate, in which I identify as a non-binary transgender individual, and I just wanted to talk about the fact that changing my email that had my dead name, they made me legally change my name, even though at other CUNY campuses, that's not the case. So I just wanted to say shout out to Brooklyn College for making me pay $200 in order to get my legal name changed, even though, I was going to do it, just so that I could get my email changed, even though they did it in 5 seconds. So there's that. And then also shout out to professors who are constantly misgendering me and my transgender friends and basically not caring. That's all.
So as a president of a club here on campus, it is very hard to go and be in a space that is just crappy. So USG, we've worked together, kind of, to become, to get the radio station back online. We've gotten what we've needed, our equipment and all that stuff. We've hopped over obstacles. But USG doesn't really visit their clubs, as student leaders of U.S. government, not U.S. government, undergraduate student government. I feel like y'all should be more involved. And I know everyone has time issues and everything, but we've started doing stuff with WBCR since the fall. Nobody has come by to say, hey, how are ya? Or oh, this is great. You guys got your new equipment. I just think that as leaders of USG, y'all should just catch up with us at least. 'Cause I just think that we should all just be in communication because we're all student leaders. And I think that would actually be nice to actually see someone at WBCR or at the Vanguard office or at other clubs. The other clubs in the web, they're all in a corner. I don't think anybody reaches out to them. That's all I have to say.
I 100% agree. Right. It is a lot about timing. This semester, this year, as we come back from COVID, has been extremely stressful because new clubs are popping up, old clubs are coming back left and right. I think last week we had 2 new clubs reactivate. And just, I 100% agree. We should be checking in more. It's something we try to do at events here in the building, just because we're located here, so it's easier to get to. It's something we try to do outside. It is tough, right? We try to do it. Ultimately, everyone in student government has classes. Some of them have jobs. Some of them have 2 jobs. People are really overworked where we're at. We're trying our hardest. I was really happy to see, the new banner up, right? And I know it's something that's, been in kind of a state of flux. But 100%. Hopefully, as things calm down next year, we'll be able to upkeep that relationship more. Because as things are, a lot of the time, we're trying to get the new clubs approved, because to become a club, you have to go through student activity, sale, right? There's a bunch of steps in the process, and this year's been a very heavy workload as we come back. So, right, I'm not going to make, like an official declaration about it, as much as I wish I could. That we're trying to be more communicative. I mean, there's almost always someone in the office here on the 3rd floor. Everyone's welcome to stop by whenever they can to talk. We're always available via email, support@bcstudentgov.org, right? That'll go out to basically everyone on the team. And so if it's a question, it'll get routed. If it's an invitation, it'll get routed. If it's just like, hey, how are you doing? Someone will respond to it. Right? Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because we are across the street, so it's kind of sad, being across the street on the 3rd floor. When you guys are across the street on the 3rd floor and nobody can make their way down there, it's kind of weird. But I will look into emailing y'all. Thank you.
Wouldn't it make a little bit more sense for you guys to have like club advocates and club liaisons, like individuals within the student government whose job it is to specifically advocate for that said club or that said group? That way you guys aren't spread too thin?
Unfortunately, it's not feasible at the scale Brooklyn College is at, right? There are around 150 clubs, and there are, frankly, not 150 students who would want to do that role, right? It's something I know club boards struggle with, filling all their seats. Sometimes student government seats, we see there's not a lot of interaction. We do have a student advocate, we have a club liaison, we have a club director, and we're looking towards expanding the role into, like a team of 4 or 5. Unfortunately, just not really feasible to have one per club as it is.
Any questions? Any other questions? Get on the mic. Get on the mic. Get on the mic, TS. TS, get on the mic. Get on the mic.
What student activities are in the school? I've been here for 2 years, and I still feel like I'm learning new stuff about this school. I'm still finding out new clubs. I'm still finding out about new rooms. Like, why isn't anybody? If you were to ask me to name like 5 student activities at the school, I can name 3. I can name 3. I barely know what this building. This is my 3rd time in this building. I barely know what this building offers. So also, what are you guys doing to promote what type of activities, what type of clubs, especially like what's going on in this building, what they have in this building? Because I feel like everything on this campus is just word of mouth.
That's also definitely something we've seen as the biggest problem we have right now is that, all these activities happen, all the events happen. I think there are 15 events scheduled for tomorrow, but it's hard to find them. It's hard to hear about them. They're all on, you can see like a big list of all of them and what room they're on Bulldog Connections, the club platform, right? Again, there have been some issues with that we're working out about. We're currently working on will be able to be fully realized, and which plans we're planning to work on will be able to be finished planning, or the next administration will be able to help with. So, it's something we've talked to administration about specifically, that student life on campus is not clear, right? Like I did not know there were 2 theater buildings, right? Whitman and Clairtow. Right, this is my 2nd year on the campus. I didn't know that, right? So we're working with admissions about having having student life included in things like orientation, so that hopefully new students coming in will be able to know more about student life and be able to kind of jump right into it without having to struggle to find everything. We're working on a bunch of different projects for getting events out there bigger. Right now, if on your Instagram page or whatever, you tag BC Student Gov when you post an event to your story, someone on the team should see it and repost it and go on the student government Instagram. So theoretically more people would see it. It's something that we've also seen as the biggest struggle, and we're really trying to look for different ways. Obviously, we're always open to any suggestions anyone has. Again, you just stop by, email, just the easiest ways to reach us. Yeah.
So does anybody on my left side have any other questions, any other concerns you want to bring up, or is that just the right side here? No questions? Let's see. Yeah, no? Yay or nay? No? No? Chilling? All right. On the right side, anybody else? Anybody got any concerns, comments? All right, well. I don't got any questions or comments or concerns. Oh, hold on, Jessica. Okay, there we go. All right.
Use of student activity fee money. What are you guys using the student fee money for?
So, besides your tuition, everyone pays student activity fee. I think it's around $116 right now. It goes to a bunch of different things. Certain clubs are listed as referendums. So a section of that money from each student is earmarked out of the budget directly to them. One of those is the Vanguard, right? They get their budgets independently out of the student activity fee. There are a couple other organizations. I don't remember the full list. Some of them active, many of them unfortunately not, as is. So a lot of the money sits there for a full year before it gets entered into reserves, and then we get the opportunity to pull for it again. That's a piece of the referendum currently on the ballot during this election cycle, is moving a lot of the referendum clubs under USG's umbrella, so it doesn't get earmarked and sit in their account for a full year before anyone can use it. It also gets earmarked for different things. A section of the money goes into undergraduate student government's operating budget, and that goes towards the events we hold. A majority of it goes into our allocating budget, which is specifically for clubs, right? If they need money, they submit a request for funds. We transfer the funds to them, because if they don't use it, then it sits in their account for a full fiscal year before it rolls back over and we're able to spend it. So it gets split a lot of different ways. Some of it goes towards, a little bit of upkeep in this building. Some of it goes towards the Women's Center. Lou mentioned before the health clinic. It goes to a lot of places. I don't remember the full breakdown, but yeah, it goes to also a referendum club? Yeah, so it goes to the radio station, goes to Vanguard. On the referendum, those would be staying separate, as obviously like a news organization shouldn't have governmental oversight. But a lot of other previous referendum groups no longer operate. And so some of that money sits for a full fiscal year, right, which rolls over at like the end of June. And then we get to pull from it if we need it. So that's something to keep in mind during voting season. But student activity fee funds basically every like student life-based event on campus, right? A couple things from the School of Business actually get funding directly from the School of Business. Some clubs like the Philosophy Society or the History Club may sometimes get funding directly from their departments. But for almost any event you see, or that's in this building, that's on the quad, that money comes in some way from your student activity fee.
And to clarify, you pay that
I thought it's 116, I think, because yeah.
Oh, and then they're proposing.
The proposal includes a $4 raise.
For the student activity fee.
Yes. So that's one of the things the referendum focuses on. There are a couple of more things in the referendum I could talk about if anyone would be interested. But
Okay, so for new clubs that are like restarting or like mid-semester, I know it's mid-semester, but for clubs that are like either coming back or like starting now, is it too late for us to get funding, or like do we have to wait till next semester? Like,
so 100% no. At the beginning of the year, we gave out starting budgets, and the idea there was it would be an amount of money that would help the club host like the first 2 events without having to come back to student government to request more, right? Just to like get yourself off the ground. But any club at any time can submit a grant request, it's called, where they submit the information for the event and what they'd spend the money on, and it goes before a club funding council, which is made up of 6 students, including the treasurer of student government, as well as me and a couple club leaders. And everyone looks over the entire thing, and we take a vote as if we think that this is, like a responsible spend. And that's always open. For submissions, Club Funding Council meets every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Downstairs here in this building in the student government office. So everyone's always welcome to stop by. Meetings are open. But it's not too late to get funding for a club. The information for the process is available on the student government website, bcstudentgov.org. If you want to read up more about it, I think that's probably the best place to see all that information. If there are any questions, again, we're always available. Support at bcstudentgov.org.
What are the religious accommodations you guys have?
So, student government advocates for a lot of things on campus. For instance, we've been working for a couple years to try to make Eid like a holiday on campus, so you wouldn't have to call out that day. It's something that's gone all the way to the top of CUNY, and now they're working on it, and we'll see what comes of that. But we have a bunch of different religious clubs on campus that are there. We have the Hill Club for Jewish students, and Muslim Women Education Initiative, Muslims Taking Back Islamic Society. They're all here. We help them out with events. For instance, Iftar is coming up. USG is co-sponsoring I think it's a dinner, right? We're co-sponsoring the dinner. And we, our goal is to make the campus as good for everyone as possible. Obviously, if there's a specific issue, again, always open. In terms of religious accommodations listed here, I'd say that's probably what it's referring to.
All right. So any other questions can be forwarded to Noam and his people. But that's all the time we got for today. Thank you guys for showing up. Give yourselves a warm round of applause. Thank you to the Vanguard. Shout out to WBCR. Shout out to making this event happen. And yeah. And the Trem students.
Don't forget follow us all on Instagram too.
True. Please. Don't forget the Trem. Oh, next slide. So if there's any questions, you can find all these lovely people at all these emails. Don't hit their numbers. They're not going to answer you. Only their emails. And you have all of them listed here. You have Gabriela Flores, Editor-in-Chief. You have Michaela Arlia, Managing Editor at the BC Vanguard. And hit us up at WBCR. We're open for any questions, comments, concerns, and we'll get back to you in a very reasonable time. And members. Yeah, we're looking for a lot of new members, so if you're interested in joining, we're always welcome. You'll see me there. And you'll have a nice high five waiting for you at the door. All right, so shout out to Trem Club setting up this lovely production with the multiple cameras. Shout out to the stream. And that will be all for this event. And thank you guys for showing up. We appreciate y'all. Thank you.